Safety guidelines for iron steel sector, cylinders handling and usage. Gas cylinders shall be handled only by properly trained persons. Training must include the contents of this guideline as well as any specific information relevant to the gas being used. While handling cylinders, the cylinder shall not be dragged or rolled. Instructions shall be issued to all suppliers for mandatory affixing of cap guards, providing color coding and warning sticker as per gas cylinder rules. 2016. In addition, supplier shall issue test and inspection certificates. Do not issue a cylinder unless contents are clearly identified. Do not alter the color coding and marking of gas cylinders, as given below. Do not use cylinders as rollers, work supports or jacks. Dropping or playing with cylinders shall be strictly prohibited. Transporting of cylinders by rolling them over the ground floor surface is strictly prohibited. Transporting of cylinders by dragging, sliding, pulling them from their nozzles is strictly prohibited. Local movement of cylinders shall be done either by placing them over proper trolleys or by carrying them over the shoulders. Prevent damage to cylinders. Locate cylinders where they will be protected from physical damage by striking or falling objects, corrosion, or damage from public tampering. Containers shall not be used for any other purpose than holding the contents as received. Damaged or leaking cylinders must be reported immediately for proper disposal. Cylinders shall not be picked up by pulling the cap. Any leaking cylinder must be handled. Magnets shall not be used for lifting cylinders. Lowering, lifting of cylinders shall not be done manually. It shall be done by mechanized means, using winch, telfer, crane, etc., with proper cage for holding the cylinders. Where appropriate lifting attachments have not been provided on the cylinder container, suitable cradles or platforms to hold the containers shall be used for lifting. Do not use welded cylinders. Leaking, defective, fire-burned and corroded containers shall not be used. Do not use chain slings for lifting cylinders, only fiber sling should be used. Do not allow cylinders to come in contact with electrical apparatus or live wires. Do not lay gas cylinders on wet soil. Do not lubricate cylinders' valve threads. Do not handle cylinders or valve assemblies with greasy hands or oil rags. Oil or grease shall not come in contact with the cylinder valve assembly or the regulator fittings. Use red hose for acetylene and other fuel gases and black-green hose for oxygen. Never interchange hoses. To train workmen to handle and store cylinders properly and in case of any problem, it has to be capped and sent back to the supplier. Nozzle tips shall be always kept clean to prevent backfire. Use hoses of equal length and do not coil the hoses around regulator or cylinder. Ensure that regulator pressure control valve is relieved, example, closed, before attaching to tanks. Close valves on gas cylinders when a system is not in use. Remove all pressure from regulators not currently used, by opening equipment valves downstream after the regulators are closed. Shut-off valves must not be installed between pressure relief devices and the equipment they are to protect. Use pressure relief valves in downstream lines to prevent high pressure buildup in the event that a regulator valve does not seat properly and a tank valve is left on. Relief valves should be vented to prevent potential buildup of explosive or toxic gases. Never allow flames or concentrated heat sources to come in contact with a gas cylinder. Never allow a gas cylinder to become part of an electrical circuit. Never partially open a tank valve to remove dust or debris from the cylinder inlet. Never use cylinder gas as compressed air. Pressurize the regulators slowly and ensure that valve outlets and regulators are pointed away from all personnel when cylinder valves are opened. Cylinders which require a wrench to open the main valve shall have the wrench left in place on the cylinder valve while it is open. Use adequately sized wrenches, 12-inch long, to minimize ergonomic stress when turning tight tank valves. Never apply excessive force when trying to open the valves. Cylinders with stuck valves should be returned to suppliers to have valves repaired. Do not attempt to open a corroded valve. It may be impossible to reseal. Valves should only be opened to the point where gas can flow into the system at the necessary pressure. This will allow for quicker shut-off in the event of a failure or emergency. Use a cylinder cap hook to loosen tight cylinder caps. Never apply excessive force or pry off caps. Return to supplier to remove stuck caps. Keep piping, regulators, and other apparatus gas tight to prevent gas leakage. Confirm gas tightness by using compatible leak test solutions, example, soap and water, or leak test instruments. Release pressure from systems before connections are tightened or loosened and before any repairs. Never use adapters or exchange fittings between tanks and regulators. Ensure flash arrestor in both cylinder torch sides for cutting purpose. Gas isolation shall not be done by kinking twisting the flexible hose. In case the same is done, then the hose shall not be reused. Flame-proof light electrical fittings shall be used in storage areas. Follow proper procedures and use the right equipment, including safety goggles, safety jackets, heavy-duty gloves, and protective footwear. Avoid placing cylinders on uneven surface. The cylinder may fall, causing injury or damage. Ensure the area has adequate lighting. Never use gas cylinders for the purpose for which they are not intended.